Hi, I'm Angela Wolf. Today I have a really fun, easy project for you. We're going to make a throw pillow out of custom fabric that we designed out of circles. A lot of circles. And guess what? They're so simple and easy to make, and they're all perfectly proportioned. We're going to use yarn, decorative thread, metallic thread, you name it. Let's get started. Here's an example of one project I'm working on. This was thick yarn, then we have 3 layers of thin yarn, ribbon, but look at how perfectly proportioned these circles are. This is simple to do. We're basically going to mark the center of our pillow, or center of our fabric, and the machine does it for you. Here's another one. This was using the zigzag stitch. There is some thin yarn with a zigzag stitch, decorative stitching, some more yarn, ribbon. This is a lot of fun. Cording, braiding, you name it, it'll all be in here. This is what you need for the project. The circular attachment, which works on quite a few brother machines. This is the magic tool that will allow us to make perfect circles, as many as we want, all the same shape. You're going to need a pillow form. I've chosen a square, size 14 by 14. You can use any size that you want, but this is the one I will be using, and I have a PDF file that you can download with specifics for this one. You'll be cutting 3 pieces of fabric. For my pillow that's 14 by 14 inches, all of these pieces are cut 15 by 15. It gives me a little bit of extra room for the seam allowance, and it also gives me room in case I kind of get this a little off-centered. So 3 pieces of fabric. I'm using here a cotton sateen. There's no stretch to it, so it's just a lightweight cotton. 3 pieces, 15 by 15, and then 1 piece of medium weight tearaway stabilizer. I'm just using a medium weight that I use for embroidery, and then I will be using an adhesive stabilizer here to spray and attach these 2 together. The reason we need a stabilizer is that if we don't, look at how lightweight this fabric is, and if we start twisting this around to sew circles, we're going to end up with pretty much of a hot mess. So this will stabilize the fabric and make it more like a home deck fabric. Then the fun part begins. Choosing a bunch of yarn. We're going to use some for braiding, some for cording. Both feet are available with this attachment, so it doesn't really matter how thick it is. So here I found some really fun hair, like a hairy yarn. This one has a little metallic. I'll be able to run 3 rows of this through one. Then we have something a little bit thicker. This is more of a suede. And then I thought just for fun we'll try one that's even hairier and kind of messy. Why don't we move over to the machine and see what this attachment is all about. This is the attachment. It just slides right into the little holes already on the machine. And you just screw in this little side here. That will keep it in place. That's basically it. Then you have this attachment here that just kind of slides back and forth. And this is how we will know what size circle we'll be sewing. Okay, pretty simple. And the last thing is this little piece here. Now be careful, it's very sharp. This is a very sharp point. Trust me, I've poked myself already. And you'll see where this triangle is. This point will go right into that area. It just pushes straight down. So basically, we're going to be marking the center of our pillow, and that will be attaching here. And as this moves back and forth, you'll see how this will make perfect circles every time. The next thing is you have 2 different feet to choose from. One that has a little bit wider area for your yarn to fit through, and another one where you could actually have 3 pieces of ribbon or trim or really thin yarn, and you can just do a zigzag stitch to attach both of them. Take a moment to press your fabric. Use the spray adhesive to attach the backing to your fabric. And then we need to mark the center of this square. I'm using a fabric pen, and I'm just going to fold my fabric, find the corners here. That looks like that's the center, and fold it one more time. And I'm just going to mark right here. That's a very simple way to mark the center. If you're off, it's okay. Remember, we cut this a little bit bigger. So we're going to say that's the center. This will be going through that pin so we can attach all of our circles. Bring your fabric over to the machine, and you're going to lift this little sharp point out. And this is going to go right where we marked the center of our fabric. So right in that little dot that we have, push it through the fabric, keeping your hands out of the way. See, it'll come through just like a tack. And going to squeeze that right into that hole I was telling you about, right where the red triangle is. Push it down, and you should be able to move it just a little bit, but now you can see this is how this is going to stitch in a circle perfectly every time. As I move it in, that's a smaller circle. As I move this out, it's a larger circle. If you really want to measure what you're doing, there's a hole through here which could go on top of this as well, and that could give you exact measurements. I'm not going to do that for this because you can't see what's going on. First, I'm going to use this foot where I can use just a little bit larger piece of yarn. It has a little screw on it. You open this up and it will move forward and backwards for your yarn to fit through. Feed the yarn through the front hole, and you'll see this is how it'll feed through the foot. And go ahead and slide the front of the foot. There's a piece of metal that moves back and forth. Just slide it back so your yarn will fit through, but not too tight and not too loose. There, perfect. I'm going to use a zigzag stitch to attach this yarn. So there are a few different ones to choose from. This is just a regular zigzag stitch. You have others that are for a knit, which really work good when you're attaching 3 layers. But I'm just going to choose this one for now. I'm going to change the stitch width to be just a little bit narrower, but be sure to test this on your yarn. Be careful to keep this yarn in front of you really loose because it needs to feed through. If you notice the fabric pulling it, I'll stop and try to figure out what is pulling. So here we have, and the fabric is going to move sideways. So I know you're used to feeding this way, but just allow the fabric to just move. If you notice the fabric bunching up through here at all, make sure just change your stitch to a little bit longer and test your stitch just a little bit. And I'm going to trim off where we started because when you get to the end of your circle, this is a little tricky. This is probably the trickiest yarn to use. That looks great. I'm going to pull this around. I'm just going to kind of stretch this out a little bit. That yarn kind of gets caught on itself, and I want it to be a little fuzzy. That was the whole purpose. So see how that looks great? All right, let's go to the next yarn. So you're going to take your hand under here, find this knob, and just move it a couple spots over. Now this will be where my next circle will go. This time I'm going to use a zigzag stitch, but I'm going to make the stitch length a little bit longer, say 3.0, and I'm changing the width to be very narrow, 1.5. And it's a good idea just to test how wide the zigzag is to make sure it's not wider than your yarn, otherwise you'll be able to see it. So I might even make it a little bit smaller, 1.0 width. And let's just start stitching. Again, making sure the yarn is feeding through, and I'm just helping the fabric around in a circle. Stitching very slow. When you get back around to the beginning starting area, again, you're going to trim off the beginning yarn and stitch over that beginning area just a little ways. Give yourself a little break. Here I'm going to do one back stitch just to secure this yarn. You have to trim off the yarn to be able to get it. Here we go. I think you got the gist of it. Continue sewing circles, as many as you want. Use different yarns, experiment with different stitches. If for some reason your yarn isn't attaching, use a little bit wider stitch to make sure you're encapturing it, and have fun with this. Another foot that comes with this circular attachment, you can fit 3 rows of real thin yarn or braiding. It has 3 little grooves for that, and then on the back of the foot you can see that this just pulls free. So here's my pillow, and you can download the PDF file for specifics, but this is for a 14 by 14 pillow. I've cut this 15 by 15, and what that will do is that will give me 1/2 inch seam allowances. Again, right side of the fabric to right side of the fabric. This part I've already stitched, so again this will be right side of the fabric to the right side of the fabric. I'm just going to overlap these 2 pieces right here, matching up the edges of the pillow, and then stitch all the way around the pillow, and when you're finished you'll be able to reach your hand in here and flip it right side out to insert your pillow. It's called a back flap. That's how simple it is to make a throw pillow with your own custom fabric. Again, I'm Angela Wolf. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out brothersews.com for more tutorials and projects. Until next time, happy sewing!